Oh,
All right.
awesome. Hey, nice to talk to you. I see all of your reverse engineering tweets. They're like really good, so it's cool to talk to you in person.
Oh, thank you so much. I also see your cool animations and videos that you put together, and I'm just a massive fan of them. Thank you for sharing them.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'm having so much fun with Lorcana. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit? I'm gonna bring up that tweet number 11, reverse engineering.
Yeah, for sure. So pretty much just by looking at Challenger
Mm-hmm.
and seeing when it only applies proactively when Captain Hook is doing the challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So his power goes from 1 to 3. Uh, if it wasn't one way, or if it was one way, why wouldn't his power just always be 3? It kind of just makes a bit of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to check like on the reverse. So like when Captain Hook is being challenged, he has 1 power, and that has to be relevant or assumed to be relevant for some reason. And that's kind of where I landed on the damage is back and forth. So I'm assuming simultaneous. Like it could be like if Captain Hook challenges, he does 3 damage first, and then if that character is alive, they deal damage back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more likely than not just going to be they just deal damage to each other at the same time.
Oh, that's perfect. Actually, that's what I was starting to doubt that a little bit, but the way you explained it, that makes perfect sense. So, if Maleficent swings at Captain Hook, since Challenger has +2 only when he's attacking, you're saying she would only take 1 damage, and that if it didn't specify that, then it's possible there wouldn't be kind of like, I don't know, trade damage. But that makes perfect sense. So you think if Maleficent swings at Hook, she'd be at 4, take 1 damage, and be at 4 health.
Yeah, that's what I think. I
Mm-hmm.
think Captain Hook only gets advantage when he's on the front foot. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes me challenge the assertion that maybe characters can be used like on the turn you play them as well. Like Stitch really makes you feel like you should be able to use the characters on the turn that you play them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a, a deeper take is that maybe you only can challenge creatures or characters that are exerted. So like the cost of exerting with Stitch is that you leave some characters vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if that's like going to be too friendly. Like I also don't know your card game background, whether if you've played games like Magic the Gathering and are familiar with Summoning Sickness.
Yeah, I
But
am. Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah, like I think Summoning Sickness is a very like old school, like kind of like a slow
Sure.
paced like way to play games. And
Mm-hmm.
I think Lorcana's trying to be a bit fast paced. I think it's going to give us like Hearthstone tempo kind of vibes,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I tuned into your stream when you posted it. Thank you, by the way, because I think it's really interesting to try to balance the cards like synonymously across all casting costs in like a game where like the curve scales up.
Yeah.
Like you would assume like an exponential rate of power. And
Mm-hmm.
Maleficent kind of shows that with the ability. The ability is worth like 5 in a card.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, we still don't know what the swell really means, like whether there is some restriction once per
Right.
turn or can be used with law or whatever. That's kind of the fun part. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like super happy to speculate. There's a ton to go off, a lot of wild directions. It's just fun to see everyone come together and just like give their own 2 cents.
Yeah, it's really exciting to me, and like, once in a while something from an old game I played, like 10 years ago hits me like, oh, they did it this way. I wonder how that relates to Lorcana. So one thing you said that I used to think like Elsa was like really low tier. Just I thought this freeze ability was overpriced, like, but if you can only attack when a chosen character is already exerted, then that would kind of bring her up a little bit, because you could make someone tap or whatever, so you could attack against it. Is there anything else that makes you think that maybe you can only attack against exerted characters?
Mainly Stitch, but like Elsa acting kind of like a royal assassin is pretty cool too.
Hmm.
This might like be a little bit speculative, but I think that you untap or unexert or refresh or whatever you want to call it your characters at the end of your turn. I
Okay.
think like the game is kind of leaning towards that,
Hmm.
and it's kind of making me think that like you draw at the end of your turn, like you just have this one ceremonious bit to wrap up your turn.
Oh, okay.
But that might be a far cry and like a departure from like most other games like
Hmm.
Pokemon, Magic, all the stuff where you start your turn, you get a fresh new piece of information. Like I think it's mainly Stitch that's saying that you can do those things.
Uh-huh.
Like yeah.
Kind of what I was thinking is how the 4 cost to draw one like really shocked me, kind of, just because usually that's like a pretty cheap thing, like drawing 1 card isn't that big of a deal. And then the fact that it seems like Stitch hypothetically could draw a lot of cards if you had a lot of one drops. You could have a really explosive turn where you drop 3 or 4 cards and like draw a lot. It kind of made me think, what if you can only play one character on your turn? And I was imagining this really, really slow paced Lorcana that's just like every move is like extremely important and you really have to think about each move. But you think it's kind of leaning towards like more fast paced, right? Like big explosive turns like every turn.
Maybe not explosive turns, but fast paced in the sense that every turn something happens rather than having to wait for a turn to happen. Like playing one character per turn, I think that could actually be pretty true if most of the characters have the swirl.
Okay.
Like, I'm leaning towards that the swirl means you only can play one swirl card per turn. So I'm not exactly sure. It's because so many cards cost a lot. Like the non-swirl cards like Dragonfire and Hades they cost a lot. So I don't think you'd be able to do too much after playing them anyway.
Right.
So it's really hard to know.
Yeah.
In regards to your comment about Magic Mirror, I actually think the card is like absurdly overpowered.
Oh, awesome.
Because yeah, that effect is a card in Magic called Jame Day Tome. Jame Day Tome is a 4-cost artifact and it has 4 tap to draw a card.
Okay.
And Magic Mirror costs 2. So it's like already way better. And the reason why I think it's way better than something like Stitch is because Stitch is a card that can easily be removed off the board just by playing your cards that you typically involve in your deck, compared to having an item which I don't think people would be able to interact with unless they have something, I imagine, like an Aladdin that can steal or use opponents' items. So if you always have this ability to pay 4 to draw an extra card, and a lot of the cards are showing that you will have a lot of resources because there are a lot of big flashy cards.
Yeah.
Whether that's a marketing thing just to show us the cool big cards, or whether that's a consistent thing, there are a lot of cards that are expensive to play. I don't know. But I think the Magic Mirror is like very, very, very powerful. The fact that it's only an Amethyst as well makes me lean towards Amethyst being controlled. We see Elsa trying to slow them down or stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I mean that's really exciting to hear. Like for me, like when I initially saw it, I was like, oh wow. If you only drew 1 card off this, like you're paying 6 to draw 1. If you draw 2, you're paying 5 to draw each card. And if someone removes it, you're going to feel pretty bad, right? Paying these like high costs. But yeah, if it can stay in play, or kind of one of my thoughts was maybe, the queen in Snow White, like maybe if you play that character, she can pull that item out of the deck. Like she has a, text that says this can come into play. That'd make it even better. But seeing what you're saying, where if it's hard to remove, it really has a lot of value over the course of the entire game.
For sure. And like maybe some colors of inks just can't interact with items whatsoever, which will just make it way better against those colors.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know, that's exciting. I'm glad you had that take, because I like a lot of the, I hear a lot of like negative about it, so it's cool to like think of that strategy with it. I like that. Do you think we're going to have any new information soon on like specific cards?
They're being very tight-lipped, so it's hard to know. Like the Magic Mirror drop seemed like a pity Valentine's Day drop. I didn't mind it, but it's very hard to know.
That's awesome. Definitely. Thanks for talking with me. Everyone follow Marco Victory on Twitter. He has the awesome reverse engineering tweets. I'll bring it up one more time so you can check those out, and a lot of other cool tweets. Yeah, man, definitely. Thanks for chatting with me.
No worries. Thank you. And also be sure to follow That's Scotland. Like great content. Love to it. And thanks for having me on. It's been fun to talk.
Cool. Thank you.